I want you to close your eyes for like just a second.
Okay.
And I want you to picture the ultimate, just undeniable symbol of extreme wealth.
Right.
If you visualize a logo with the letters L and V tightly intertwined, your mind probably jumps straight to a very specific lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you think of celebrities dodging paparazzi at high-end airports or maybe massive yachts anchored off the coast of Monaco. And I mean, price tags on a single leather handbag that could easily pay for a very reliable car.
Yeah. It basically functions as a universal shorthand. When you see that monogram, it projects an image completely detached from the idea of struggling or sweating or, wanting for anything at all.
Right.
It is the aesthetic of having already won the game.
But if you were to travel back to 1835 and actually meet the person behind those famous initials, you wouldn't find some billionaire stepping out of a bespoke suit.
No, not at all.
You would find a 13-year-old boy, and he is completely barefoot. He is sleeping in the dirt of a freezing French forest, and he has absolutely no idea how he's going to survive the week.
Wow.
He was a homeless child who didn't just build a brand, but forged a massive empire. And to understand how he did it, we have to look at how he weaponized the one thing he learned on the streets, which is just pure survival.
Because when we analyze the historical documents and the business records in our sources today for this deep dive, this is not a glamorous fairy tale about fashion.
No, it really isn't.
It is actually a masterclass in brilliant engineering, psychological manipulation, and honestly extreme corporate ruthlessness.
Yeah, whether you love high-end fashion or hate it, understanding this brand's blueprint reveals exactly how modern luxury manipulates human psychology. So, I mean, let's start at that incredibly bleak beginning.
Let's do it.
You have this kid, Louis. He's born into a very poor family in a small village in eastern France. His father is a struggling farmer.
Right.
His mother, who made hats, tragically passes away when he is only 10 years old. And then his father remarries, and the historical records paint his new stepmother as a genuinely cruel figure, like straight out of a grim fairy tale.
It's a terrible situation.
The environment becomes so unbearable that at 13, with nothing but the clothes on his back, Louis just runs away.
And his destination was Paris. But, you have to put yourself in the shoes of a penniless child in the 1830s. Paris was 292 miles away from his village.
Yeah.
Without money for a carriage, that distance might as well have been on the moon.
So how does a 13-year-old even survive a journey like that?
Through sheer grit. I mean, he walked every single step of those 292 miles, and it took him 2 entire years to do it.
2 years?
2 years of sleeping in barns or just under the open sky in the woods. He would stop at villages along the route and take on any intense manual labor he could find just to earn a crust of bread.
Wow.
He worked for blacksmiths. He carried heavy loads of wood. By the time he finally arrived at the gates of Paris, he was no longer a naive kid. He was a hardened survivor who really knew how to work with his hands.
And his timing actually turns out to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
He walks into Paris exactly as the Industrial Revolution is shifting into high gear.
Precisely. The old, slow era of horse-drawn carriages was dying out. Steamships and the early railway systems were suddenly, completely changing how humanity moved across the map. Travel was getting faster, and wealthier people were traveling further.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this. He lands an apprenticeship with a master trunk maker named Monsieur Maréchal.
Yes.
But wait, I want to pause here, because when we say trunk maker, modern minds picture a standard rectangular suitcase.
Right, like a box.
Exactly. But that wasn't what they were using back then.
Not at all. Luggage at the time was heavy, incredibly bulky, and usually made of thick leather. And leather has a major flaw when you're strapping it to the back of a carriage.
The weather.
Exactly. The second it gets soaked in the rain, it literally begins to rot and smell awful.
Yeah.
Because of this, trunk makers designed them with big, rounded, domed tops, so the water would just run off.
But think about how wildly inefficient that is for the new trains and steamships. I mean, it's like trying to pack a bunch of oddly shaped watermelons into a car trunk.
That's a great way to put it.
Every time you put a domed trunk into a train's cargo hold, you waste all the vertical space above it because you just can't stack anything on top. And train companies charged a premium for space.
Exactly.
So Louis essentially needed to invent the shipping container for luxury travel. How did he actually solve that engineering nightmare?
The breakthrough came in 1854. This was after 17 years of learning the trade when he finally opened his own shop. He realized the dome top was only necessary because the leather couldn't handle water.
Okay.
So he completely ditched the rotting, smelly leather Instead, he engineered a material called Trianon gray canvas.
Canvas, but wouldn't canvas just soak right through immediately?
It would if it was raw. But he coated this canvas with a specialized treatment. It made it incredibly lightweight,
Yeah.
fully waterproof, and highly durable.
Oh, wow.
Because the material itself repelled water, he no longer needed the dome to shed the rain. He could build the world's first truly flat-top travel trunk.
So suddenly you have a lightweight, waterproof box that you can stack perfectly on top of another box, all the way to the ceiling of a train car.
Exactly. It was a massive leap in travel efficiency. But, engineering a great box doesn't build a luxury empire. What built the empire was who noticed it.
Right.
Empress Eugenie, the wife of Napoleon III, was so impressed that she hired Louis as her personal trunk maker and packer.
I mean, that is the ultimate marketing win. He is suddenly inside the palace walls, handling the most expensive, delicate clothing in the world. And I imagine once you have the official endorsement of the Empress, every aristocrat in Europe decides they cannot possibly travel without one.
It created an absolute explosion in demand, but it also created an immediate massive problem.
The fakes.
Yes. The moment you have the most coveted product inside the palace, the copycats outside the gates start stealing your designs. Louis spent the rest of his life fighting fakers.
Which is so ironic given what the brand deals with today.
Highly ironic. He constantly had to evolve the look of his trunks just to stay ahead of the counterfeits. He moved from that original gray Trianon canvas to a striped pattern, and then to a checkerboard design known as the demier print.
It's a never-ending game of cat and mouse. So how do they finally solve it? Because when you look at a modern bag, it's not usually striped or checkered.
Well, the definitive solution didn't come from Louis. After he died in 1892, his son Georges took over the company.
Okay.
Georges realized they needed a design so intricate that the cheap underground workshops simply wouldn't have the technology or the skill to replicate it affordably.
Aha.
So he combined their initials with highly specific Japanese-inspired floral patterns. That is the origin of the iconic LV monogram.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's incredible to think that a complex floral design, which is now the ultimate symbol of showing off, was originally just an anti-counterfeiting measure.
Right.
It was basically the 1890s equivalent of a watermarked dollar bill. But, ironically, today it is the most counterfeited symbol in human history.
What's fascinating here is that the mechanism behind that irony is exactly what shifted the brand's identity forever.
How so?
Once Georges applied that highly complex monogram, the trunk was no longer just a brilliantly engineered box for clothes. Because everyone knew how difficult and expensive that pattern was to produce, merely possessing it proved you had immense disposable income.
So it turned the wealthy into walking billboards.
Exactly. The definition of luxury shifted away from just the utility of the item and entirely toward the public recognition of the logo.
The brand becomes a fortress. They are obsessively protecting this logo, protecting this status. But as we dig into the historical documents for this deep dive, we see that this intense drive to ensure the brand's survival at all costs eventually led the company down a deeply controversial path during the darkest days of the 20th century.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
When World War II broke out and Nazi Germany occupied France, the entire landscape for luxury goods collapsed. Many prestigious brands realized the environment was impossible and simply closed their doors or went into hiding to wait out the war.
Now, I want to be very clear with you as we discuss this next part. We are looking directly at the historical source material here. We aren't taking any political sides, and we are certainly not endorsing these actions.
Right.
We are simply reporting the history exactly as it is documented. During the Nazi occupation, Louis Vuitton, along with the designer Coco Chanel, actually cooperated with the Nazi-controlled Vichy government.
Yeah.
The Vuitton family set up a factory that produced items specifically glorifying the Nazi puppet regime. They actively kept their business thriving by aligning themselves with the occupying oppressors. And for decades after the war, the brand tried very hard to bury this chapter.
They really did.
They wanted the public to focus solely on the glamorous leather and the heritage.
It forces us to look at the psychology of corporate self-preservation. I mean, you have a company born from a young boy's pure grit, a kid who fought through freezing forests just to stay alive.
Right.
But generations later, that exact same survival instinct had morphed into a corporate entity willing to collaborate with a brutal occupying force, simply to maintain its economic power and keep the factory lights on.
Yeah.
The drive to survive had completely detached from any moral anchor.
And that ruthless instinct to conquer, to survive no matter the cost, laid the exact foundation for the modern era of the brand. Except, instead of physical survival, it became financial survival. The company was eventually spearheaded by a man who treated luxury goods like Wall Street warfare. I'm talking about Bernard Arnault.
Oh, yes. Frequently ranked as the richest person on Earth.
And what is vital to understand about Arnault is that he did not care about the artisanal, romantic tradition of trunk making.
No.
He saw the monogram and he recognized the raw, undeniable financial power of the brand name.
So how does he actually get control of it, though? Because he wasn't part of the Vuitton family.
Well, in the late 1980s, Louis Vuitton had merged with the massive champagne and spirits house Moët. They formed a conglomerate called LVMH.
Right, the famous LVMH. Exactly. But almost immediately, a vicious internal war broke out between the executives of the two sides. Arnault saw the chaos and stepped in. He exploited the division, essentially playing the factions against each other.
Wow.
While they were fighting, he slowly and quietly bought up enough shares to execute a hostile takeover.
He steals the castle from the inside while the lords are arguing. It's brilliant, but it's brutal. I mean, they literally called him the wolf in cashmere. But how does a guy known for corporate raiding actually run a heritage trunk-making company?
He runs it by inventing a completely new business model, which is basically luxury warfare. His strategy was to acquire the most prestigious, historically rich brands in the world.
Okay.
He would carefully preserve their beautiful aesthetic history for the public eye, but behind the scenes he ran the actual operations with the pure ruthlessness of a private equity firm. Heritage brands are often rich in history but poor in actual cash flow.
Right.
Arnault used the massive cash generated by the conglomerate to aggressively hunt down more brands.
Right. The sources show he didn't stop with LV. He secretly bought up nearly 35% of Gucci's shares before they even knew what was happening.
Yeah, triggering this massive, brutal handbag war that dragged through the courts for years.
And he went after Hermès so aggressively that the founding family literally had to circle the wagons. They had to hold an emergency meeting and create a complex private holding structure just to lock up their shares and block his takeover attempts.
It's like a brutal game of Monopoly, with a competitor's properties all while wearing a bespoke cashmere suit. He proved that a brand's deep, artisanal history is really just a psychological tool used to leverage more capital.
Yeah.
He completely fused heritage aesthetics with an aggressive financial machinery.
And what's wild is that this iron-fisted control doesn't just stay in the corporate boardroom. It dictates exactly how these bags are sold to you, or more accurately, how they are kept away from you.
Right.
Because you never, ever see a Louis Vuitton end-of-season sale. There is no clearance rack.
They maintain a strict policy of zero discounts. If a bag or a piece of clothing doesn't sell at full price, they don't mark it down. They routinely take that unsold stock and they burn it.
Okay, I have to stop here because from a purely logical financial standpoint, burning perfectly good inventory sounds completely insane. How is literally destroying your own product a brilliant business move?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it makes perfect sense when you understand the mechanics of what economists call a Veblen good.
A Veblen good?
Yes. In normal economics, if you raise the price of something, fewer people want to buy it. But a Veblen good defies that logic. With luxury items, the higher the price and the harder it is to obtain, the more people desire it.
Okay.
The value isn't in the canvas or the leather, the value is the exclusivity. By burning the surplus, they are engineering artificial scarcity. They are ensuring the market is never flooded with affordable LV products, which would instantly destroy the illusion that the item is rare.
So you aren't paying for the canvas. You are paying for the engineered distance between you and everyone else who can't get the bag.
Exactly. You are paying for the fact that a Maharaja once owned one.
Who is actually buying at that level, though? I mean, beyond modern celebrities, who needs that much custom luggage?
Well, the historical records in our sources point to people like the Maharaja Hari Singh of Jammu and Kashmir. Back in 1927, he placed an order for 38 highly customized trunks in a single 7-month period.
38 trunks in 7 months.
Yeah. He had them purpose-built for his polo gear, his elaborate tea sets, his grooming kits. They have always built their foundation on courting the absolute ultra-wealthy.
So they engineer the scarcity, but they also have to control the exact environment where you interact with the brand, right? You don't see these items in standard department stores.
No, they demand absolute, unquestioned control over their operations. A great mechanical example of this from the sources happened in 2011. Louis Vuitton's executives spent years negotiating directly with Indian Minister Kamal Nath. India had strict local rules requiring foreign brands to take on local Indian business partners to operate there. LV flat out refused to share control. They negotiated until they bypassed those rules entirely, securing total independent control of their boutiques in the country.
But when you operate like that, catering exclusively to the global elite, burning your own products to create artificial scarcity, and demanding total corporate dominance, you inevitably place a massive target on your back in the modern era.
Oh, without a doubt.
Today, the brand faces intense ethical and environmental scrutiny.
Particularly regarding the physical realities of their supply chain for exotic materials.
Exactly. Organizations like PETA have exposed some incredibly brutal realities behind the glamorous storefronts. They released hidden footage showing crocodiles being kept in cramped, concrete pits before being slaughtered for their skin.
Yeah.
And they documented ostriches being subjected to electric shocks solely to produce a very particular bumpy texture desired for high-end leather goods.
And the activists realized that just protesting on the sidewalk outside a boutique doesn't really impact a conglomerate like LVMH. So PETA actively bought shares in the company.
Which is a brilliant mechanical tactic. How does that actually force the company to listen?
Because when you buy shares, you are legally a part owner of the company. That legally entitles you to attend the annual shareholder meetings.
Yeah.
PETA used those shares to walk right into the boardroom, bypass the PR departments, and stand directly in front of Bernard Arnault and the executives, demanding an end to animal cruelty.
Wow.
It created such a massive disruption that the police actually had to be called in to physically remove the protesters from the building.
It's this massive collision. This raises an important question about the clash between the brand's modern marketing language, which, often highlights sustainability and responsibility, and the deeply controversial physical reality of how exotic leather is actually sourced. Yet, despite all of this friction, the wartime collaboration, the intense animal rights scandals, the ruthless corporate takeovers, the literal burning of their own inventory, the brand just continues to thrive.
It really does.
In 2023, the Louis Vuitton brand alone was valued at over $12 billion. They bring in massive cultural figures like Pharrell Williams as creative director, perfectly fusing that old-world elite exclusivity with high-volume modern celebrity culture.
They have seamlessly transitioned from making waterproof steamer trunks for 19th century empresses to dictating the aesthetic of global pop culture today.
When you step back and look at our entire stack of sources, the story of Louis Vuitton is defined by its immense, almost unbelievable contradictions.
Yeah.
It is the ultimate paradox. You have a boy who started with absolutely nothing, barefoot in the dirt, who ends up building an empire specifically designed for people who have absolutely everything.
It's a story of true mechanical travel innovation that genuinely changed how people moved across the world.
Yeah.
But it is deeply shadowed by political collaboration and survival at any moral cost. It's a brand that will violently fight counterfeiters in international courts to protect its authenticity, while simultaneously setting fire to its own authentic inventory just to protect its aura of exclusivity.
So what does this all actually mean for you, the listener? It means Louis Vuitton didn't just build a bag. He built the blueprint for a modern religion of status. The LV logo is the ultimate symbol of relentless hustle, of a highly complex history, and of the incredibly harsh, ruthless reality of the luxury world.
It really is.
It proves that with enough grit and a 292-mile walk, you really can turn a forest floor into a throne. But it also proves that the higher the throne, the more skeletons you are going to find locked in the closet.
Which leaves us with one final thought to mull over. If a luxury brand's entire value is built on the psychological illusion of exclusivity and a carefully curated romantic heritage, what happens to that financial value when modern consumers start caring more about the skeletons hidden in the closet than the famous monogram printed on the outside? In the future, will the ultimate, most expensive luxury actually be complete transparency?